Ian Garry is a bad mother. You can finish that sentence. You two probably won't like that. But guys, we have to start putting some respect on Ian Garry's name. I know you guys are going to be like, oh, he's a vegan. Oh, his wife does some stuff. All of the controversies of him not having these comments that you can see on my screen right now. This is my account. I have comments turned on. I don't care if anybody says something bad about me. He turned off his comments. Obviously, these are things that, you could criticize him for. But one thing you cannot criticize him for is him accepting fights. Because in that term of Ian Garry saying yes to fighters, saying no to fighters, he is a bad mother blanker. Because he's taking on, I believe, number 12 or number 13 in the UFC's welterweight division. Number 13 when he does not have to. There is no real upside in taking a fight with Michael Venom Page, a guy that's only 1-0 in the UFC, has a decision win, doesn't even have a finish in the UFC, and he's going to give that guy a huge step up in competition, whereas some other guys, Sean Brady, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Jeff Neal, Buckley, Neil Magny are right there and are higher ranked and possibly could be even easier matchups for Ian Garry. Aside from that, we have to remember he just beat number 10. Ian Garry just beat number 10 in the UFC welterweight division, yet he's accepting number 13 in the UFC welterweight division. A similar thing would be like freaking Paulo Costa going out and beating Khamzat Chimaev, close decision win, just like he did against Jeff Neal, and then saying, well, I'll fight Michel Pereira. That does seem like a fun fight on this upcoming pay-per-view, when if you're beating number 10, you should probably get a shot inside of that top 10. I fully believe Ian Garry is deserving enough to fight a Colby, to fight the loser of Bilal Leon, or to even fight a Kamaru Usman type of a guy. He actually deserves that step up in competition inside of this UFC welterweight division, especially when that's not his only win above Michael Venom Page. He has also beaten Neil Magny, who is at number 12. Those are his last two wins, yet he's accepting a guy below that. So, first and foremost, I know the comments are going to be, some of them are going to be ridiculing Ian Garry for whatever reason. I mean, there's some reasons where you should be doing that. But him accepting number 13 has to give him some level of respect and credibility as an MMA fighter who has pretty big-sized balls to accept the challenge of fighting Michael Venom Page at UFC 303. He accepted to fight Sean Brady. He said he accepted to fight Joaquin Buckley. He accepted to fight Colby Covington. And I believe there's one more name that's kind of slipping my tongue. He said Nursultan, if he was able to beat Joaquin, he would have said yes to all of these opponents and did say yes to all of these opponents. None of them were able, but Michael Venom Page was able to. And now, Michael's had a long break since the Kevin Holland fight. He says he for sure accept the fight. He doesn't say 100% he needs to be on UFC 304. That's what I heard from his interview, and that's why he's accepting it for UFC 303, because obviously you would think, right, like a Michael Venom Page versus Ian Garry fight, you would think this is a clear UFC 304 Manchester type of a fight, an Irishman versus an Englishman. You gotta think that's clearly a fight that should be made for UFC 304. Michael Page doesn't care. Ian Garry doesn't care. They're gonna be the co-main event most likely for this McGregor card. Now, again, there's not really much I can say on Michael Venom Page's part, because if you're Michael Venom Page, you're accepting this fight. It's a huge step up in competition, taking on number 7 in just your second fight inside of the UFC. But again, give Ian Garry some respect for taking this fight. Some level of respect. You don't have to be like, I fully respect this man, but you gotta give him his props for accepting this fight. Now, I don't know if it's going to be co-main event. I've been looking at UFC 304, saying Ulberg versus Jamal Hill is going to be the co-main event, but the UFC hasn't come out there and said specifically that Ulberg versus Jamal Hill is going to be the co-main event. At least that's not what I think. They possibly could have been, but it does seem very obvious that you would do Ian Garry versus Michael Venom Page as the co-main, and do Jamal Hill, Carlos Ulberg as the main card opener. First fight of the main card, get you hyped for the rest of that pay-per-view. I don't really like Cub Swanson, Andre Fili on the main card. I personally would have to do Mayra Bueno Silva, Macy Chiasson, because that's a possible next title contender in that bantamweight division versus the girl that just fought for the belts. Not a lot of people are going to like women being on the main card. I'm going to have to do it. And then I probably put Peyton Talbot and Giannis Gamori on that main card as the second fight on that pay-per-view. Just because a lot of people are starting to get hyped on this man, Peyton Talbot. And I do believe he actually is having a bigger name than even a former champ, Andrei Arlovski, and has a lot more potential than anyone else on these preliminary card. So that would be my main card. McGregor Chandler, co-main Ian Garry versus Michael Venom Page. I would do Mayra Bueno Silva, Macy Chiasson, and then I would do Peyton Talbot, Giannis Gamori, then the Jamal Hill, Carlos Ulberg. But should be a good card. It's definitely shaping up a lot better than it did a few days ago when we didn't have Jamal Hill, Carlos Ulberg. Due to the cancellation of the Khalil Roundtree fight, we didn't have an Ian Garry fight, and we literally only had for a short amount of time there, McGregor Chandler with the co-main being Ricky Simone, Vinicius Oliveira, or Mayra versus Macy Chiasson. The card was looking pretty rough at that point in time, but it's good. The UFC is making a McGregor card pretty good. Pretty well-rounded card, a lot of prospects, a lot of up-and-comers, future contenders, future title contenders in their respective weight classes. I do like this fight. I didn't like how everyone was saying, no, let's do Michael Venom Page versus Wonderboy Thompson. That would have been a horrible fight, but I digress. We're going to go through one more thing right here, and that was that Michael Venom Page, it's going to take a lot of clicking from me here, but it was that Michael Venom Page was actually supposed to fight Joaquin Buckley at UFC 304. Buckley says that he was supposed to fight Michael Venom Page at UFC 304. That was the plan, but now that Ian Garry needed an opponent for UFC 303, Colby wouldn't do it. It didn't look like Sean Brady was able to make the date on time, because I heard that was another plan for Ian Garry to fight Sean Brady at UFC 303. None of that was working, so they had to pull Michael Venom Page from the Manchester card to UFC 303, and now Buckley is left without an opponent. So what do you guys think? Was this the correct way of going about it? Should they maybe have done Buckley versus Ian Garry? Something like that? Because I believe Buckley's actually ranked higher if we're looking at the rankings. He's at a number 11 right there, so that could have done more for Ian Garry there. I don't know. But what do you guys think? Who wins this fight? I'm going to give my early prediction because I kind of have to at this point. I'm going to go with... And it's really, really tough to decide because Ian has better grappling, better jiu-jitsu, better wrestling. Obviously, probably going to have the better striking and MVP right here, but it's going to be very, very close. I actually expect it being a close fight. I don't think it's going to be like a point fight like a lot of people are saying. I believe both guys are actually going to take a few risks here. I'm going to go Ian Garry. 29-28, unanimous decision, possibly split, but I actually think he's going to use the dart ins from Michael Venom Page when he lands that 1-2 and comes in with that fast flurry of that 1-2. I think Ian Garry's going to time those and mix in a few takedowns, mix in a little bit of ground and pound, maybe a submission attempt now that he's training with Charles do Bronx Oliveira in the, I think it was like the Nerds gym. I think that's what it's called. But it should be a fun fight. Good. Should be co-main event for UFC 303. What do you guys think? Who wins this one? Ian Garry or Michael Venom Page? Predictions down below. Check that pinned comment to become a channel member.